not wanting to get involved and not even wanting to talk about this. And I am here to talk about this. And this is the aspects of Kobe Bryant's death. And interesting enough, it was one of the things that everybody's got a time and a place. Everybody's got a story for it. And in that story, there we go. We're getting camera online. Holy man. Everybody's got this story. And everybody has an attachment. And there are some that are actually just like kind of waylay it, just don't think about it, sweep it under the rug, which was me. And then there was others that are making it their own. And so what we're going to talk about today is the concept of a greater impact in life than in death. You know, oftentimes it takes death for us to be able to look at our lives. And this is what I'd have you consider the reason why so many people are impacted by this. It is a young man, a famous young man, has everything as the world would show it as far as money and beautiful children and a life that was just, now can be lived without any have-tos or any lingering aspects of stress of debt and, because the financial aspects of things and the flexibility to do and go anywhere that you want. And so the impact, though, it was a 41-year-old man and his 13-year-old daughter. And I'm seeing this across the board. Now, some people can't even verbalize it. They're like, oh, I loved Kobe and he was awesome. And like, for me, I basketball, yeah. I can honestly say in the last 20 years, I've probably watched maybe one or two games, and it was probably college at best, and it was just by happenstance it's on. And I've said this before, and it's not negative. I love sports. I was an athlete all through high school and college athlete. But this is not something that if I can't actually participate in it, I'm not going to watch it. And that's my whole gig. If I can't control the outcome, somebody be like, Doc, you're a control freak. Well, maybe. But if I can't control the outcome and the outcome cannot control me, then I'm not involved in it. But here I find myself here talking about this because of the impact, the ripple effect that this has had. So I was literally standing in the gym and I got a notice from the Weather Channel. It said fog may be connected to the crash of the helicopter that killed Kobe Bryant. And I was like, what? I was like, it's got to be like a spam thing, something like that. And I clicked on it, and sure enough, there's the headlines. And, immediately I was like, whoa. And then I had to share it with a couple people. I'm like, did you hear about this? And it's like, no. Oh, it's like, oh, wow. And so we just kind of started to talk about it. But literally there was like this energy shift. And the majority of us couldn't put our fingers on it, even if we were asked. Most people were like, oh, man, that's tragic. It's so sad. It's, all these types of things. But nobody could put their finger on it and why. And then we move on. Yet I'd have you consider that we don't really move on. Because the impact when we're faced with death, I mentioned this and I kind of wrote on this, that when we're faced with that impact of death, it has a dramatic effect because there is a reflection in our own world. And it has to be a celebrity. So it's okay. Because you got to realize there was probably, I don't know, I'd estimate 10 to 15 deaths on the freeways that day just from car crashes alone that they flew over. The helicopter goes over the freeways that people were driving. There was some catastrophic accidents. I should look it up. But that's just the stats down in there. I mean, there's so many car crashes and so much tragedy. But we're not sitting there looking at and typing in and getting reports on car crashes and who died and their families that are impacted. But when it's a celebrity, it has this I don't know, stigma, if you will, that comes with it, that it has this ripple effect. And so we're standing there in the wrestling tournament, and small space, granted, but there was this elevation of, like, as people kind of started to find out They're on their phones to check, brackets for wrestling and all sorts of stuff. There was this kind of this elevated irritation, this almost like, ugh. And people, again, if you asked them, they wouldn't be able to say, hey, this is what I'm going through right now. But the impact that this had for me was the realization that people are not okay with their emotions. And they don't know how to process things at all. At all. And I was in the same aspect, not realizing that this triggered me in my own world. This was a reflection for me of how I am alive, not in death, but how I am alive. And I had this post not too long ago about death reckoning, and this is kind of just another second, if you will, in this series for me. If you go back, I was struck by lightning in a plane. I was coming back from an event, and we were taking off, and this plane was just the jet was this commuter jet taking off, and there was just the loudest bang, almost like something blew up. I couldn't tell what was going on. Long story short, listen back to that because it's a powerful message to think about. But here I am again in the aspects of bringing another message of what we do in life should echo louder than what we do in death. Meaning our death should not be the reckoning that everybody starts to look back at our life and say, oh, wow, he was this kind of person. That's what. The concept is to live a life that people talk about while you're alive. And I'm not saying for public recognition, I'm not saying anything, but to have the significant impact, to have everything laid out on a daily basis at the level that you can lay it out, the highest level that you can possibly lay something out, meaning full speed. That you have nothing left to give because you gave it all. This is the impact. Because you look at it, instantaneously, it's over. And I love this about wrestling. We had somebody was like, well, okay, so the person wasn't really pinned, but the ref tapped the mat, and it was over. And here's the thing. We sit there and say, yeah, bad call. Horrible situation. And then immediately we go into, and the person, this dad was like, well, can we change it? No, can't. It's over. Well, that's not fair. Yes, correct. But you cannot recreate, and here's the concept, you cannot recreate that situation. Meaning when the pin was called, there was a level of energy, there was a level of positions that the kids were in. One was dominating over the other one, and there was just this scenario that happened that we cannot put anybody back in that scenario. We can't put it in the perfect position back to where it was. We cannot recreate the past. So thus it's over. And this is what bends people. This is what tweaked everybody in a gym. You could see the energy shift. And most are just, shaking it off. Oh man, that's tragic. Yep. Okay, we move on. And then you find yourself down the road getting triggered and angry and not knowing why. And this goes deeper than just the emotions of somebody that is close to your age with a daughter. In case my son at the same age, I have a 13-year-old boy. I'm 44, going on 44 this year. I'm 43. 2 years difference. Exact same age of a kid. There's a frequency that resonates there that starts to knock on the door of saying, where are you at? What are you doing? And there's a reflection, it's a mirror that literally God holds up and says, what are you doing? Because this is a gift and it's over. Just like a pin is over, it's absolutely over. And people want to say, rest in peace. Really? Like, does that even matter? The words that you say, they're not even going to echo to his wife, to his other kids. It's not going to go to the other families. Unless you are personally connected there, it has no impact. There's no words. There's no actions. It does not matter. However, there are people that are more than willing to dive into that travesty and make it their own. They will take time, energy, even resources away from their own family, their own people that are right in front of them, and waste time in this. They will make this tragedy, they will make this drama, they will make this grieving their own. It's a weird concept. Somebody you don't even know. Somebody you could say had an impact in your life. If you were a basketball player and you wanted to emulate Kobe Bryant, I could see that. Has a little bit more impact. But nothing you can say or do is going to change that. It's over. And in that terminal velocity that happens, in an instantaneous kind of just snap of the fingers, it's over. We look at our own fragility of life, our own mortality, I should say, hopefully morality as well, but your own mortality in the aspects of that you're only gifted what you have right now. And right now. And right now. The next minute, the next second, the next day is not even promised. And so it sits as this reflection of what you're doing. And most get out of this with an irritation of just like, ugh, I don't know why I'm irritated, but I'm irritated. Compared to diving into where you are at in life and using this as leverage or a reflection to leverage yourself into a higher state of action and a higher state of being. Being more. Doing more. And this is across your world. This is like being that person that is there for that little person in front of you. You don't have little people in front of you. It's stepping aside and finding little people that are in need, that don't have a dad. That they never got to experience the death of a father because they never knew that father. That you could step in and be that father. It might exist in a coaching scenario where you're stepping in and putting in place something for somebody that they have never had. Being a dad, being a mom to somebody that never did have that experience when they grew up. See, the concept is identify this as it's okay to trigger an emotion, but it's also okay to figure out what that emotion is. Because I sat there going, you know what, this has, I don't know. I mean, it's tragic, but I can't do anything about it. It's over. And there's hundreds of thousands of people that die on a daily basis just like this, that have families, bigger families. More people impacted. So what do? Well, you recognize it. And you recognize that the celebrity status, what this has to do. Now, I don't agree with what all the media puts out there. This is all smoke and mirrors. It's like a movie. They thrive on these types of things because it sells what? Sells advertising. Even the picture of Kobe in front of the helicopter is totally wrong. I don't even know what helicopter that was. Even more for me, in the aspect that in June, I flew in that same exact helicopter. With that same exact pilot. Just found that out yesterday at lunch. Looked up the tail number. Knew the tail number because they had put it out there, but the tail number, another brother that I know, put it out there. I looked at it and sure enough. So I had 2 death reckonings here. We were close. We're talking about what? 6 months later, that helicopter and that pilot go down. How it went down? Well, I knew the bird. I knew how the instruments it had. I talked to the pilot. So anyways, this hits home. This is close. This is very, very, very close. And then I have the lightning. So I am sitting here with the reflection of hitting me twice of saying, hey, what are you doing? And so I'm challenging you today to look at it from a standpoint of what are you actually doing in life? And could you echo in living what needs to be echoed greater than what your death would basically draw out of people? And that's the challenge. Could you do in life something greater than your death would represent? Or do we wait for death for people to define who you are? You see, for me, I want to look at this world and say, look, I was defined by life, not death. I want my family to be all okay when I die. And wherever that is. That my legacy is there. That my love was never held back. That my actions always showed exactly what I wanted them to show. And that I left everything on the table. Last little example, little story I was watching, and I posted on Facebook, go look at it, but I was watching this, the Hong Kong, basically in fastest, craziest downhill in Germany, Kitzbühel, and they let the public go out of the gate after, because it was this last weekend, and it started like Wednesday, Thursday or something with downhill races, Super G, so the speed event. And they let the general public go out. And I loved it because it just, you had the general public that had this perception of like what these World Cup ski racers, downhill racers did, that they could actually do something similar and see how they actually compared to some of these racers. There's a point with this, of course, like always. And I watched a series of these people like get in the gate and they put their poles. Now, I've done this. I've had top speeds of in the low 90s clocked in Crested Butte, Colorado. 90, I want to say 94. 94 miles an hour we had this speed trap. Totally stupid. Totally crazy. So I understand the impact of that, of snow and how hard it is and like what these elite athletes do. And we watch the general public go out, and the first guy goes out, and just skis slip right up. Just the full, like, head, shoulders hit the snow first with the skis up, and then he slides, probably like 20 miles an hour trying to stop himself. Can't even stand up in one instant. What an elite athlete does. And I bring this up because it's symbolic of the way I see and the way I want to live a life of everything all out. These ski racers go full board. They go full board on this course that people can't even stand on in their own skis. Full board, full out, just leaving it all. All on the hill, but all in life. Like leaving everything that we can do every single day. I find myself sometimes walling around like, what do I got to get done? What do I got to get done? And I'm like, I don't have to do anything, but I can be in this moment right now. I can be in this moment right now, and then I can do anything that I want to. But I first must be. And I first must recognize where I am going to be able to have that impact day in, day out. It's not always perfect. And it's not always going to be Mother Teresa style, like, oh my gosh, look what he did. But every day I have an impact on my kids. Every day I have an impact on my queen. Every day I have an impact on people that come across. Good or bad, that's up to them. But I will live life full out and have a greater impact in life than I will in death. I want my death to be just that. It's over. Not to worry about what could be, not to look back about what could have been, but it's done. It's done. I live a life in the fact that my family would stand there and just be like, he gave it all. There's nothing left. We watched this movie on Harriet Tubman, who actually got to and freed, I think it was close to 1,000 different slaves right before the Civil War. And interesting enough, her last words at the death of 91 years old, after being an advocate, for slavery, freeing all these people and then advocating for, anti-slavery type of stuff, she says, I will go ahead and make a space for you. Basically, I'm done here, but I will go ahead to the next level and make a space for you. Make a place, make sure it's all good. Make sure it's all neat and tidy. I'll clean it up, and I'll be waiting for you when you get here. What an amazing life. What an amazing way to go through life and then to move on. To not have faith, to not believe that this is where I'm going, but to know. And in the movie, they showed her connection to the voice of God so many different times. And everybody around her knew that that's what she did. So she knew. She didn't believe. She didn't guess where she was going. And in her final words, she said, hey, I'll be there when you get there. I'll go ahead. It's my time now to be done on this physical experience, this physical world, to move on to the next. We may not know what it looks like. We may not know what it feels like. We may not know what it sounds like or tastes like. But we know what it's going to be. It's not going to be anything like this. And so we move on. And in the tap of a mat, it's over. And so I have you consider today, in this longer podcast, knocking on 20 minutes, have you considered today that you were triggered, not by Kobe's death, not that you lost an elite athlete that made an impact in your world, not that the 13-year-old died, that it was a reflection in your own world. It was a reflection of your own life, of where you're at, what you're doing, and it is a knock on the door to saying, what are you bringing? Are you truly living a life that has more impact than if you were dead? And if you're still listening at this point, you're wanting to make a change. So I encourage you to stand up and make a change. To question what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, and the impact that you're having. I do it, even at the level that I serve, and the impact, I do it more and more. And I get more and more out of it each time. So in the death of a celebrity, you process the feelings, you process the emotions, or you don't. I'll have you consider that if you don't, they will well up some other time. Usually in anger, that you explode. And then you can go through a process of guilt and shame after your anger, after your explosion. Or you can deal with it now, and you can look at it as what it is, a reflection in your own world. Not to get irritated, but to take some action. Not to get frustrated at it, but to take some action. To recognize in your own world where you may not be doing all out, where you may not be laying it all out on the line, so for which you can actually today make that change and give a little bit more. To give a little bit more. In love and light. Lots of love and light. In this scenario. The Kobe Bryant's death most likely didn't impact you, wasn't for you, but it had an impact on you and was for you. Consider it today, but consider how you're going to process it.